And welcome back to the Hot Lap, and massive congratulations to both Max Verstappen and Lando. Got that wrong, didn't I? Lando Norris. What an absolutely fantastic last few laps we had on what was not quite the ball fifth, but let's be fair, it wasn't Miami, was it? But thanks to the antics of Lando and Verstappen, the last 10 laps were fairly exciting, let's say. So, I mean, let's have a look and let's get into those results, shall we? So, let's have a look at each of the drivers. Now, who finished last? Well, bear with me as I try and find out who finished last. It was this man here. Alex Albon. Not necessarily his fault, though. Williams ended up having issues with putting tyres on. He had to pit again. He didn't finish in the end. So, yeah, it's difficult to rate. An average weekend for Williams. Averagely disappointing, to be fair, compared to their 2023 campaign. So, next up, the man who finished in 19th place. This guy here, Fernando Alonso. Worst weekend for me. This is the worst weekend he's had since his comeback to Formula One, without a shadow of a doubt. Absolutely not good enough. He said himself, after qualifying, it was a write-off, it's done. So, finishing 18th, and still a lap down, was this man here, beaten by his teammate, Valtteri Bottas. Yes. Oh, Valtteri, not good enough. And he needs, if he's going to be kept by Audi, which many people do not think he will, he needs to do better. There are rumours that he might be going to Williams, though. So, yeah, maybe okay. So, after Valtteri Bottas, we have the highest Williams, believe it or not, in Logan Sargent. Solid job, I think. I mean, yeah, he beat Bottas, he beat Alonso, so not too bad. People, some of the people had issues behind him. But I think a fairly solid job when you compare it to other Logan Sargent races. So, yeah. That's about it, really. It's not going to save his career. He's going to need a much better result than that. Roll on Monaco. Can he do something in Monaco? Many people would say unlikely. But, he's, again, like Bottas, well, more than Bottas, this guy needs something absolutely mega. Gasly, again, outshone by Ocon. I mean, this is becoming too much of a habit, isn't it? Not great for Gasly. Needs to do better. Zhou Guanyu, another man who may not be on the grid next year, but I think he did a solid job, a solid weekend. Not great. I think just solid, really. Onwards to the other Australian driver, Daniel Ricciardo, who a very average race, I feel. Average, yeah. I mean, he was there. He was outshone by Tsunoda. He was beaten by Tsunoda, who finished 10th. And after China and Miami, you kind of thought this man, Ricciardo, had turned a corner. He hasn't quite turned the corner. He might be on the apex of the corner, but he still needs to turn it, I think, for the rest of the season. And both drivers, I think, have shown that neither of them are really favourite or looking like taking Perez's place, which is a shame, because I think many were hoping it was going to be Danny Ric. Alas, no. So, next up is everyone's favourite villain, Kevin Magnussen. Again, 12th, not too bad. Average weekend. I mean, he was very much outshone by his teammate, albeit, to be fair to Kevin Magnussen, he was held up by Piastri in the first qualifying session, so who knows where he would have done. But Hülkenberg, again, the MVP of Haas, really needs to stop. I mean, the more this happens, the more I think Haas are going to question whether Magnussen is going to be in that team for next year, which is, I think for me, is kind of like a shame. So next up, after that, we have the man who got the first point finish, Yuki Tsunoda. What a weekend he had. I'm really happy for VCAR, Visa Cash App, RB, whatever you want to call them, but really, really happy for them. Yuki Tsunoda, an absolutely solid job. The last of the lap runners as well, not too bad at all. So next up, we have Alonso's teammate Lance Stroll, who, yes, he did outshine Alonso, finished 9th. I think that may have been about as high as maybe even Alonso ended up finishing. The Aston Martin team did have an upgrade package here, but it didn't really do much, did it? So, yeah, kind of like a bit average. But if Stroll was average, this man here, disappointing. What a disappointing weekend as well. Didn't really show much in the race. Finished 54.7 seconds behind his teammate in the end. Not good enough, really, for Sergio Perez. Yes, this is a track that is hard to pass, and you can say he gets a pass, but I think one of his worst weekends of the year so far. As I said, one swallow doesn't make a summer in terms of bad results, but you have to start thinking, if this continues into Monaco, Spain, Canada, places like that, I think, before the summer break, big question marks, I think, are going to want to be answered. So, this man here, George Russell, he had the pace of Hamilton all weekend. Yes, he did finish behind, but Mercedes did get that extra point. That may prove crucial for the fastest lap. And he had the pace in Hamilton, didn't he? Throughout the race. So fair play to George Russell. Lewis Hamilton, a disappointing weekend. I think one of the more disappointing weekends, really. I mean, he just wasn't there. And it didn't look like he was there at all throughout most of the weekend. Whereas sometimes this year, when he's not looked like he was there, he suddenly catches up with Russell a couple of tenths off. Maybe, you think in the race, he's doing really well. So, yeah, a very average weekend for Lewis Hamilton. Well, I did feel he was kind of outshone by George Russell, which is a shame. But we've got Monaco, which, funny enough, is not one of Lewis Hamilton's best races. So next up, we have Spain's own Carlos Sainz, who had a disappointing weekend. What didn't help, I think, was a Ferrari strategy brain drain, I feel. So, yeah, an average weekend for Sainz, where he was outshone by Leclerc again. And you can't help now. Has the momentum swung in the Ferrari pit lane, in the Ferrari team, towards Charles Leclerc? Who knows? So a really solid weekend for this guy here. It's such a shame he held up Magnussen, because starting second, what could have happened with two McLarens up there? Could they have won? Could they have pressured Max into a different strategy? Maybe. I guess we'll never know. But I think fourth is about as good as Oscar Piastri was going to get. And in third, you can't help but feel Ferrari finishing third and fifth. Kind of disappointing. A disappointing weekend, I think, for Ferrari. Given the upgrades, given that practice, they did genuinely look on the Friday to be the fastest car. They were really strong on the mediums, even in Q1. And then it kind of went away from them, really, the weekend, didn't it? Hopefully, come Monaco and then maybe the other races like Spain, etc., hopefully they're going to understand their new package more. But, yeah, I was a bit disappointed in their race pace in the end. So, I guess we'll have to roll on Monaco. Can Leclerc finally get that duck off his back and win his home race? The curse, will the curse be lifted? Who knows? So next up we have Landon Norris. I've got that spelling wrong, haven't I? Lando, I'm going to have to redo that. But Lando Norris, absolutely fantastic race for Lando Norris. Brilliant. For me, the driver of the race. He got a slightly better start than Max Verstappen, didn't he? He was up there, and in that second phase of the start, he just lost it a tiny bit, and then Max Verstappen drove away. 6 seconds, we thought that was it. Then they pitted within a few laps, a couple of laps of each other, and then Lando and Max obviously put the hard tyres on, and it looked like that. To be fair, it looked like Lando was under pressure from Charles Leclerc, but no, he then started catching Max Verstappen. Whether it was a case of bad setup for Red Bull, not understanding the hard tyres, or Lando easing those tyres in a bit better than Max, and then putting the pressure on Max, you have to wonder, if there were any more laps, would Lando Norris have won? But it was this man here, and I do think the driver, Max Verstappen, more than the car, made the difference today. Absolutely it did. Was the McLaren fast in race pace? I don't know. They were so close towards the end of the stint. Was it a case of Max burning his tyres too soon? I don't know. But it was very much a Max Verstappen win and not a Red Bull win. But I still think I still think driver of the race should go to Lando Norris. I mean, here we go. Man of the race, Lando Norris. Yep, driver of the race, simply because despite the average start, the 6 seconds behind Max, we thought it was going to be a complete snooze fest from start to finish. I was a bit bored watching it. But then suddenly he started gaining on Max, and he was going sideways. He was absolutely driving, sometimes 110% and over the limit. I mean, it was almost watching it, expecting it to go in the barriers, but it didn't. He was absolutely trying 110%, and you can't criticise Lando for that. He tried his best. He even said himself, another few laps, he may well have won the race. So props up to Lando Norris, giving us a half-decent last 10 laps in what was kind of a bit of a meh race, one of the more disappointing races of the year, in terms of not much happening throughout the grid. At least when Verstappen, goes off in the lead, exciting stuff happens behind, but it really wasn't. Just strategic, yes. Action on the track, not so much. But Lando Norris gave us a decent race with 10 laps to go and made it quite exciting. But also, well done. Well done, to Max Verstappen as well. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for our race review. We will obviously be back at some point to talk with the race fallout, hopefully, and the Monaco Grand Prix preview, which is in less than a week now. This is Monday the 20th of May as we're recording, like 2:44 in the morning. Yeah, bit late or early, whatever way you want to look at it. So if you made it to the end, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. If you do one, you're a world champion. If you can do both, you are going to be a multiple world champion. But just watching this and watching it to the end means so much. I mean, we've got now over 1,000 subscribers. I will be doing at some point that 1,000 subscriber special. Thank you so much. It does mean a lot, because sometimes I record these videos, put all in the effort, and you're like, oh, do I carry on? It takes a lot, but I really enjoy doing it, and I love responding to all the comments as well. I mean, most of you, well, nearly all of you, 99.9%, have been absolutely so lovely, and I really appreciate that. It absolutely makes my day. Anyway, we'll be back with the fallout. We'll be back with our Monaco Grand Prix preview. Stay tuned. Thank you very much, and speak to you soon.